how far away are we from starting to see some of the Microsoft investments start to be embedded in some of the Office tool sets that we're also used to?
Yeah. So there's a trial being done at the moment. So we call it Copilot for M365. Hasn't been announced yet for Edu, but it's certainly been announced for other industries. And at the moment, we're testing with 600 global customers. Some of the biggest companies in the world, for example, are part of that pilot, and we're getting feedback and those sorts of things from them. So not sure on the exact timings or any exact announcements around education per se, but that's just for the Office bit. We are seeing co-pilots, which I think is an interesting word to unpack because it kind of talks to the way Microsoft are thinking about this technology. Like, it's not about a replacing humans thing. It's not about a out of control thing. It's a co-pilot, right? It's sitting alongside you. There's a human in the loop. It's about what do you want it to do with you or do for you? And there's some pretty profound opportunities, but I like that language. So for example, there's Copilot being built into our security products. Now you might think, well, why on earth would we have Copilot built into security products? Well, in something like Sentinel, which is one of our security platform products, which some of the people listening will know about, you can actually get a piece of malicious code, for example, and use the artificial intelligence to reverse engineer that code to work out actually what it's doing. And so when you think about the application of artificial intelligence in that space, it's very different to, using a Word and PowerPoint, which will come, but there's ways it's being used in that. Another one that I like to talk about too is the idea of, and it's back to the data conversation, is how co-pilots will be used in something like, data and analytics. So, something like Power BI, which is the business intelligence sort of dashboard visualization tool for those who don't know. But it's a way that, you might have a teacher end up with a dashboard of data around their class and how they're trending over time, and you can build those things yourself. But, largely they require a fair bit of work at the moment to get up and running. They're a little bit, can be a little bit cumbersome to build in. And then the other thing that there's some of these sometimes get lost in translation because a data person creates these dashboards for a non-data person. And often there's a bit of a mismatch there as well. That's not exactly what I wanted, or I don't know how to drill that data down further. The future is, and I spoke about this earlier on, think about those large language models as not just an output of text or image or whatever you can get from them, but also the fact that now the technology can understand what you want out of it, and it can do it itself. So, for example, think 3 years into the future, probably 2, maybe 1 year into the future. If you've got all your data organized around learners in your school and learners in your environment, then a teacher might be able to sort of type into their Power BI, create me a dashboard about DOM's learning, show literacy and numeracy development over the last 3 years, show NAPLAN results, add in truancy data, talk about, other interventions that we've made, whatever I want in there, and it'll just appear. And if I want to tweak it, then I just use natural language to tweak it. And so what that means now is that every end user is in control of the way they see data and exactly what they want on a dashboard like that. And so that would all be running out of a sort of a co-pilot AI infused system as well. So and so there's the Office space, where we see some pretty amazing demos of one of the people inside Microsoft the other day in a chat said, I took a bit of a risk today, and instead of preparing a presentation, I got Copilot to do it on the fly for me in front of the audience. And so she's got a preview version of this. And so that's pretty interesting, right? It's changes the way we might think about document creation, or, based on this report and this PowerPoint presentation, but using the template of this one to make it look like this. Can you create me 10 slides of da-da-da-da? And then you can sort of shape it as you go. So no timeline on that yet for us in Edu, but certainly something that's that's coming in other industries. But all of these other little co-pilots are sort of popping up in other parts of our platform. And I suppose there's a couple of different ways. There's 3 different ways to think about it. There's what are Microsoft going to build in our stuff? There's what could you do yourself, like if you engage Centurino or whatever as a school and you put Azure in OpenAI in your own environment and you start to create your own, what could you do there? And then there's what a third-party technology company is going to do, because they're, all of the independent software vendors, people who make software, are working out how to put AI into, infuse AI, these kind of generative AI into their products. So there's kind of three ways to think about it.
Yeah, I learned a lot in that bit of information. There's a lot to unpack there, and what I really took out of it was this isn't a replacement of humans vision that Microsoft has. This is, the signal is in the name in Copilot. This is all there to make us more efficient, more effective. It's there to make students learning easier and more adaptable. It's there to make teachers more effective, more efficient. They're already time poor individuals. Have I summed that up pretty well there? I
think so. And if you push it to the nth degree, right? One of the possibilities of this technology are so profound. For example, imagine if every student had an AI-based tutor that could help them with their learning. That is not beyond the realm of possibility at all now. 6 months ago, you would have thought I was crazy. But that is not beyond the realms of possibility, because the models that you can put into your own environment, you can craft the way they respond and how they have dialogue. And so Sal Khan, some people who are listening will know about Khan Academy. They've created a Khan Migo bot using this technology in their platform. And basically it's being told, never give a kid an answer. But when a student says, what's the answer to question 6, it's being trained to have what we'd call a Socratic dialogue. And what that means is, I'm not going to tell you what the answer is, but can you tell me what you think the first step might be? And it goes back and forth with the student to unpack and build on the knowledge that the student is outlaying through their responses. Now, that's just good tutoring behavior, good teaching behavior. And so there's another piece of research and evidence in education, goes back to 1984 by a guy called Bloom, who talked about this thing called the 2 sigma problem. And the 2 sigma problem basically says that students who are taught in a one-on-one tutoring sort of scenario will perform on average 2 standard deviations better than a student who is taught in a 1:30 kind of ratio. So think individual tuition versus classroom. And so what we have the possibility of doing maybe with this technology moving forward is giving everyone not quite a human 1-to-1, but a better than 1:30. And so I think we're scratching the surface of what that might look like now. And there are some people who are forging ahead with this as an idea. The UAE are doing some work about having an AI-based student tutor for every kid. So we're starting to see these sorts of things emerge, and I don't think it'll be too far into the future where these things become a reality.
Okay, so take me out of the classroom and let's take our listeners into the home study. As a parent, is this something that we should be supporting our children to embrace, or is it something that we should be actively trying to steer them away from?
I think it's something that we've got an opportunity to educate our kids about, is what I actually think. The challenge with any emerging technology is that there are some parents who are right across this and understand it and are using it themselves, and it's easier for them to have a conversation. There's some parents who are not tech savvy themselves, right? Who aren't in industries where they even use a computer all day, every day. So that's harder for them to have a conversation. But I think having some kind of conversation, and maybe schools have a role to play in this with parent evenings, et cetera, et cetera. This isn't going away. So it's kind of about how do we facilitate this conversation. I remember being at a parent evening when a school was rolling out a one-to-one device program in a school. Oh, gee, it would have been 2010 or 11 or something. And some parents were completely irate that their student was going to have a personal portable computer for their learning in their home, which they saw as a distraction device, not as a learning device. And so a lot of work was done by the school to talk about, how does this fit into learning? And I think this conversation's the same. That it's not going away. It's an opportunity for us to become discerning consumers of knowledge in a different format. because it's now going to be easier than ever before to get information in the way we want an answer. So think about traditional internet search, right? You ask a question of internet search, it gives you a list of where you may or may not find the answer to the question you've asked. The first few of them are ads, paid ads, but they don't look like it. But so you then have to open up those 7 links and still go and find the answer. This kind of gets past that because it can give you some kind of response or some kind of answer because it can go and do that next level of work for you, which is distilling things down. That's great, but we have to understand and make sure kids understand that this is sometimes wrong, it's fallible, it's giving you the stuff that's on the internet. We know not all the stuff that's on the internet is right. So they just have to be aware of that, and it's a good teaching moment, I think. But it's certainly not something that's going away. So I don't recommend this idea of blocking it because prohibition's never really worked. I think it's something that we need to embrace, but we need to embrace cautiously and have good conversations about.
Fantastic. Look, Travis, thank you so much for all your amazing points today. If you wanted to leave our listeners with a single gold nugget or a piece to walk away with, what would that be?
I think it's to start something. If you're a teacher and you're looking at this and going, oh, what can we do about it? Then start using it yourself to save yourself some time, but be discerning about it. If you're a school leader who's thinking about this, and we obviously have lots of conversations with school leaders, then it's about, how do I bring those teachers together to have a conversation? What are people doing with it in our environment already? How are they teachers saving themselves time? Ask some kids, what are you doing with this? Are you using it? Are you not using it?
Awesome. Let's wrap it up there. Thank you so much, Travis, for your time, and thank you, listeners, for tuning in for another episode.
Thanks, mate.